Check. Check. Hey everybody, hi, good evening, welcome to the session. Please let me know if I'm completely audible to you, if my voice is absolutely clear, if there are any sound issues or anything like that. So just give me a thumbs up, hi, good evening. If everything is fine, you can just wish me and just let me know in the comment box. Hey everybody, hi, welcome to the session. Please let me know if I'm completely audible to you, if my voice is absolutely clear. Clear, guys? I'm assuming that it should be fine. So if you're watching, okay. So in this particular session, so yesterday we couldn't come live because of an extremely hectic classes offline, and that is why we are not able to do it. So we're still figuring out and tweaking our schedules, guys. So from Monday again, we'll be having a full-fledged session. So as I've told you in the previous video as well, that the PGCET application has been extended until 22nd of April. Right? So from Monday you'll have a lot of even live classes as well happening. So today you'll have only my session, as Shaba sir's session is already very occupied in his offline class. So I'll be handling figures of speech. This is a very important topic because you'll have at least 2 or 3 questions generally asked in every year in the verbal ability section, right? So, and this is one of the topic which is not highly covered because it is not given that due importance. So I'll take you through all the necessary ones. So PGCET ಒಳಗಡೆ ಕೇಳುವಂತ for MBA and MCA ಗೆ figures of speech ಕೇಳುವಂತ necessary concept ಹೇಳಿ will solve the questions and you'll have a crystal clear understanding by the end of this session. Clear? So without further ado, let's get started. So it could be a 20-minute session, 30-minute session. Accordingly, we'll go through that, guys. So first of all, what do you mean by even the term called as figures of speech ಅಂತಂದ್ರೇನು? So ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ಹೌದಾ? See, figures of speech ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, the best example I can tell you about figures of speech is whenever we listen to songs, right? Whenever we listen to songs or growing up we read poems, शायरी जो भी हम बोलते हैं, ठीक है? Why do they actually sound extremely nice to us, right? Something which appeals to our emotions. So in this case what happens is, very importantly we need to understand is these particular figures of speech that we talk about, they express a strong emotion, right? Best example you can see, William Shakespeare says, death lays his icy hands on the forehead of the king. You see, he could have simply written, well, the king almost reached the end of his life, I mean he's dead. But no, you want to really add a lot of depth to the statement. So to create more impact and to bring out the emotions through the words, these figures of speech will help us. So to understand what kind of figures of speech are heavily used in topics like MBA and MCA PGCET, we'll see through that example, right? So all the songs that we listen to, Bollywood, Sandalwood, English, right, Western, every song is always, they draw comparison to something, right? They beautiful songs, all the old retro songs, if you observe, they always would compare the beauty to something else because that would connect the humans to emotion. So let's see the examples here. He narrated the death as a living being and the hands of the death are on the forehead of the king. See, again, very poetic, right? A figure of speech is a departure from the ordinary form expression to produce a better effect. It can be special repetition, arrangement, or omission of words with literal meaning or a phrase with specialized meaning. Sometimes we say, no, amazingly horrible. Sometimes we say that actually. I mean, amazing is something extremely positive, horrible is negative. Even such phrase exists, yes. Okay. So what are those figures of speech? We'll see all of that in a while. So the first figures of speech that we are going to see is, as you can see here, simile ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಹೌದಾ. what do you mean by the word simile? Simile is that a very commonly used figure of speech even in communication. We hear this a lot in commentary as well. Simile is that figure of speech wherein you compare two unlike things. ಎರಡು unlike things ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ and we use a comparative word like as something as ಅಥವಾ like something. So this is very important. So that is called a simile, introduced with the word like or as ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Example, he fights like a lion. I'm comparing a person with a lion, comparing two different things ಹೌದಾ, but I'm just drawing the parallels with something, so I'm using a comparative word as well. He fights like a lion, so hence this figure of speech becomes what, guys? Simile. I hope everybody is clear. Let me know if you are clear with this. She swims as fast as a fish. Even ಈ particular statement ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ನೋಡಬಹುದು, I'm comparing she, a particular individual, with another element as fish. Completely two different things ಹೌದಾ, ಎರಡಕ್ಕೂ ಏನು ಸಂಬಂಧನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎರಡು ಅನ್ಲೈಕ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ವಾಟ್ ಅ ಕಂಪ್ಯಾರಿಟಿವ್ ವರ್ಡ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ as fast as. I repeat, simile ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ we compare two unlike things using a comparative word like or as, simple as that. He is as brave as a lion. Correct. I'm again comparing an individual to same thing. The lake was as clear as crystal. See, I'm just trying to tell you that crystal is something which you can see clearly something, right? That the other side of it, very absolutely clear. So again, I'm comparing the word lake and crystal using a comparative word, right? MS Dhoni is as cool as ice. Right? You will see a lot of people use this in their phrase, correct? There is also one more way they use, what it is called, I'll tell you that as well, correct? Virat plays like a warrior. Again, I'm comparing two different things and using a comparative word. So this figure of speech is called as what, guys? Simile. I believe you guys are absolutely clear, correct? Now let's move forward to the next one. ಎರಡನೇ figure of speech ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವೆರಿ ಅಗೇನ್ ಕಾಮನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮೆಟಾಫರ್ ಹೌದಾ. ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಮೆಟಾಫರ್? ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಫಿಗರ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚ್ ವೇರ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಕಂಪೇರಿಂಗ್. ಅಲ್ಲೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು, ಎರಡೂ ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್. ಸಿಮಿಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ಮೆಟಾಫರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಎರಡು ಅನ್ಲೈಕ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸನ್ನು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಒನ್ ಮೇಜರ್ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, in metaphor we don't use the terms like as something as or like something, wherein we eliminate that comparative word and we directly compare. Like I gave you an example that MS Dhoni is as cool as ice. I can MS Dhoni is ice cool. Okay, so what is that? I'm directly comparing. I'm not using comparative words like athwa as something else. We must be guided by the light of nature. We must be guided by the light of nature. We and light of nature, direct comparison without like or as. The wish is father to the thought. Okay, one more example I can give you is life is a dream. Okay, life is a dream. Okay, so the life is a dream. I'm not saying life is like a dream. Had I written life is like a dream, in this case what happens? I'm comparing life with a dream using a comparative word. So in this case it becomes a simile, but since I'm using a direct comparison, it becomes a metaphor. I hope everybody is clear. The world is at stage. Clear? The world is a stage. He was a lion in the fight. Of course, I could have used he was as a lion in the fight. In that case, it would have become simile. So that is the only difference. I hope everybody is clear. The second figure of speech as well. Let's move on. As I've told you, what is the difference between simile and metaphor? Metaphor is more effective than a simile. Words of comparison are not used in metaphor. That's what I told you. Life is a dream, life is like a dream. That is the only difference. Okay? Maharana Pratap was a lion in the battlefield. Maharana Pratap fought like a lion. So this becomes a simile, whereas this becomes a metaphor. That's the only difference. Okay, next one. Hyperbole or hyperbole. Both are fine. Okay. Now in this case, it is over exaggeration. Okay. It is like beyond, too much ant heltivala. Okay, way too much. Over exaggeration. That is called as this figure of speech. Now if you observe here, I could sleep for a year. Now practically speaking, nobody can sleep for a year, right? We can only sleep for maximum of 8 hours, 10 hours, or maximum 12 hours, 24 hours. But year is way too much, which is practically not possible, but still we are using it to say the depth of the sentence. Like it means that much of a sleep I would require. ಅಷ್ಟು ನಂಗೆ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೌದಾ. Similarly, for example, the tea is icy cold. The cold tea is icy cold. Of course, you are just saying that how much cold, like you are just trying to show the effectiveness of that. Okay. One more example I'll give you is the best one is, if rivers were dry, I am able to fill it with tears. If rivers were dry, I am able to fill it with tears. Is it possible to fill the river with tears? Of course not. But I'm trying to show that how much of a sorrow that I carry. Right? I'm just over exaggerating it. I'm just bringing it to a huge extent. So I believe you guys are absolutely clear with this. Okay. Next one. Like one more example is like in Hindi also they say, no, आंसुओं से पेट भर लिया. Technically you can't fill your appetite using tears, but you're just exaggerating your pain. So in that case, that is an example of hyperbole. Next one. Oxymoron. A very commonly used even in day-to-day life figure of speech. Oxymoron is basically wherein you are taking two things which are completely contradicting to each other. Dark light. Light itself is elimination of dark, but you are saying dark light, right? Similarly, living dead. Okay, most of the people around us are living dead. It means you're trying to tell that they are living but with in an autopilot mode. They are not living with purpose. I mean the bigger aspect of it, but you are taking living and dead, which are completely the opposite and contradicting to each other, to exaggerate, and not exactly exaggerate, but rather to create more effective way of a particular statement. Life is bittersweet. You know, bittersweet meaning sometimes it's high and sometimes it's low, but bitter and sweet are completely the opposite tastes. But you are using it to convey an effective statement wherein it involves both these elements. Howda? He is a silent orator. Now, silent is completely being quiet, and orator is somebody who is an excellent speaker, meaning being silent, he can still speak a lot. That is how you are expressing, especially in cinema, especially a good actor, when he gives a pause, right? I don't know how many of you watch Dhurandhar, and there is one particular scene of Ranveer Singh wherein he just communicates so powerfully through his eyes. So that is an excellent example of he spoke a million things through his silence. Silence spoke two contradictory things. Oxymoron. Correct? He is an innocent criminal. Can a criminal be innocent? Meaning they are two completely contradicting things. So such things are called as oxymoron. You can see the other example. He is an honest thief. अरे भाई thief कोई कैसे भला honest होता है? वो चोर है भाई, है ना? तो ಎರಡು oxymoron, ಎರಡು contradicting है. So that is called as oxymoron, and very commonly asked in exam, and even in communication also it is heavily used. Correct? Fifth one, again, I think this one is pretty much we have grown up learning to this. Personification and ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. As the name itself says, person. Personification is you take non-living thing and you add human value to it. You kind of give human touch to non-living things, right? You are giving life to inanimate objects or inanimate things. For example, the wind howled in the night. My alarm clock yells at me every morning. It yells. But of course it doesn't do it, but you're just personifying, you're just giving a human aspect to that non-living thing. One more example is anxiety is sitting on his face. Anxiety is sitting on his face. Technically anxiety is something a person feels, but you are just giving a human connection or a human touch to this particular element. Howda? Everest is the king of mountains. Everest is the king of mountains. Again, you are personifying, you are comparing a non-living things with a human. Okay. For example, one more thing is the wind spoke to my heart. Again, personifying, you are just saying a non-living thing and you are giving a human touch to it. So such things are called as personification. Onomatopoeia, okay, one of the rare figures of speech. and especially in terms of examination. Onomatopoeia is a word which actually looks like a sound. Sometimes when we read a particular sound, we can actually hear. For example, if I were to tell you, imagine you throwing a stone into a water. The moment you throw a stone into a water, your brain makes a certain particular sound. So when you name that sound itself, that is called as onomatopoeia. For example, water plops into the pond. When I throw a stone, or the sound of it, plops, correct? A snake, the sound of a snake is hiss. A snake hisses. Tick tock goes the watch. The sound of a watch. If you imagine, or if you see a watch and hear the dial closely, the sound that it makes. So naming of the sound is called as onomatopoeia, correct? The buzzing of the bees buzz. The dog barks. The cat is moving. Clear? So that is called as what, guys? Onomatopoeia, wherein you are producing sound. Clear? One more example I can see is splish splash downhill. Splish splash downhill. So you are giving me the name of a sound again. Ding dong goes the bell. When you press the bell, the sound that you make, the naming of that sound. Simple as that. So that is the figure of speech. Seventh one, figure of speech, irony. Irony is, as you can see itself, it is part of speech wherein the real meaning is exactly the opposite of which literally is conveyed. How that? For example, I know it's a joke. I used to always wonder, the barber needed a haircut. I know I shouldn't really talking about a barber and the haircut, but hey guys, I too do visit salon for shaving, right? So the barber needed a haircut. Clearly, barber is the one who does the hairdos, but here he himself needed it. So clearly, it's an irony. The police station got robbed while the officers were out on patrol. The police station itself means what, guys? To deal with robbery and crime, and they themselves got robbed. So clearly, it is an irony. The exact opposite of that. The inventor of the smoke detector, I hope everybody knows smoke detector, to detect smoke and protect it before the fire goes and burns it off. So the person who actually, who invented this, he himself died in a house fire because he didn't have the smoke detector. I hope everybody is clear. So it's complete in irony. One more example I can tell you is, the doctor needed an injection. The doctor needed an injection. He himself treats, but he himself needed a treatment. So that is called as an irony. Okay? So I hope everybody is clear with this, guys. Next, alliteration. What do you mean by alliteration? Here, we would also call it as tongue twisters antu helative. Howda? Tongue twisters is wherein you can see here, she sells by the seashore. So the words are constantly repeated by the same word. The same particular alphabet is repeated. Tongue twister and helative. Howda? The planner prepared a perfect presentation. Right? So you can see the alphabet is constantly repeated and it creates different sounds. So that is called as alliteration. In Hindi, I think we used to learn Chandu ki chachi ne chachi ke Chandu ko, something like that, right? So that is an example of alliteration as well, right? So wherein the repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of closely connected words. So that is called as alliteration. Yes, so these are the 8 important figures of speech. So I'll quickly go through and tell you. First one that we have seen is simile. Howda? So simile antandre eno, we compare two unlike things using a comparative word, like or as. The second one we saw was metaphor, which is wherein you directly compare without using comparative words. The third one which we saw, which was that, guys? If I'm not wrong, personification, no, hyperbole, wherein over exaggeration. How that? Completely, which is not practical, but you are still over exaggerating. I mean, which is way too much, right? For example, it's raining cats and dogs. Technically, that is, you are expressing and over imagining it, right? Fourth one is oxymoron, wherein you are expressing two things which are completely the opposite, contradictory. Fifth one is personification, wherein you are giving the human value or human touch or the life to inanimate things. Onomatopoeia is basically you are naming the sound of the very thing that you are talking about. The snake hisses, the dog barks, the cat mews. How the irony, I've told you, it is completely the opposite of what the profession or a person is trying to tell you. How the alliteration is the repetition of the word at the beginning of each particular thing. Otherwise, in other words, we can also call it as tongue twisters. So now what we'll do is all of this that we have seen, I want you all to just go through this and tell me which part of speech. I'll give you a minute to think, and all these 7 questions I want you all to tell me. First one is which figure of speech, second one, third one, fourth one. So yav figure of speech agatte nange heli. You can just note it down and let me know. First one, guys, ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ? The thief was as sly as a fox. The thief was as sly as a fox. If you observe, I'm comparing thief and fox, two unlike things, and I'm using a comparative word as something as or like, so it means it is called as a simile. Clear? Second one, upon explanation, the concept was as clear as crystal to Rahul. Upon explanation, the concept was as clear as crystal to Rahul. So here in Agli Gadeti, you are comparing concept and you're comparing the concept being crystal to unlike things, again using as something as. It also represents what, guys? Simile. Okay. Third one, the soldier jumped on the enemies like a hungry lion. The soldier jumped on the enemies like a hungry lion. Again, you are comparing two unlike things using like. Again, it becomes what, guys? Simile only. Fourth one, the camel is the ship of the desert. You are comparing camel and the ship of the desert, two unlike things, but you are not using any comparative word. So comparative word ellardu ನೀವು directly ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ comparison ಅಂತ ನಾವೇಂತೀವಿ metaphor. The dentist had a severe toothache. The dentist himself had a dentist is the one who treats it, but he is getting the opposite of that. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಿದೆ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ನಾನು irony. Irony is exactly opposite of what the person's profession is and all of that. Mr. Sharma thought the sweets were calling him. Mr. Sharma thought that the sweets were calling him. Now, there are two things. Sir, sweets were calling him. Will it be over-exaggeration, that is hyperbole, or will it be, personification? Well, if you're trying to understand, you are giving a non-living thing, a human touch. So that is why it becomes what, guys? Personification. Because we are giving life to inanimate things. It seemed that the sky was going to cry the entire night. Arey bhai, it seemed that the sky was going to cry the entire night. Again, non-living thing ko tum life de rahe ho. You are giving a human touch to it. So that's why it also becomes what? A personification. I believe you guys are absolutely clear with this. Okay. So, going to the next one, could you please solve this? Can you take a moment and then solve and let me know which figure of speech it could be? Eighth one, I would forgive you when pigs fly. Okay, the statement is I would forgive you when pigs fly. When pigs fly is also an idiom which states it's never going to happen. Okay, an impossible task or a situation. So you are over exaggerating it. Correct? It means it is a hyperbole. Right? You are over exaggerating something. Right? Practically it is not possible. Death touched Miss David with its icy fingers. Again, you're talking about something like this and giving a human touch to it. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಿದೆ? Personification ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Clear? You're giving personification. Next one. Sheldon is a walking dictionary. Sheldon is a walking dictionary. You are comparing Sheldon and dictionary, two opposite things, unlike things I would rather say, and direct comparison. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಇದನ್ನ? Metaphor. What's wrong with you? Metaphor. Okay? The sausages tasted awfully good. Again, the sausages tasted awfully good. Awful is something which is extremely negative, whereas good is positive. So you're comparing a positive and negative element, two completely contradicting things. So hence it becomes what, guys? Oxymoron. Remember, oxymoron is something which you're talking about, two contradicting things. Clear? Bittersweet. How the victory tastes bittersweet. Bitter and sweet, two different tastes. Sheena was as proud as a peacock. Sheena was as proud as a peacock. So in this case, if you observe, I'm comparing Sheena and peacock. ನಾನು ಎರಡು different things ಅನ್ನ compare ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕತ್ತೀನಿ using a particular word, guys, a comparative word, as something as. So in that case, I've told you this becomes a simile. It has been raining cats and dogs for hours. I think I've already used this example. It's also an idiom, raining cats and dogs. Again, I'm over exaggerating it, correct? It's in other words, I'm telling it's pouring down, raining heavily, which we Indians use that term quite often. It's raining cats and dogs. So you can say it is hyperbole, over exaggeration. So I believe it is, I think you are able to understand, guys. Chalo. Let's move on to the last set of questions and finish it off. And then we can close the session. Quickly, can you go through this? The CEO of the power company sat in the dark during a power outage. The CEO of the power company sat in the dark during a power outage. The person who is supposed to really supply power or electricity, he himself is facing that. It means what, guys? What did I tell you? Right? Irony. See, this is where a lot of people also get confused, sir. Irony then oxymoron. So we are talking about oxymoron, two different things, completely contradictory things. But this is the opposite of the profession. So that is why it is an irony. Okay? Oxymoron is wherein I'm talking about two different qualities. Mostly on the quality sides we are talking about. Next one. I have told the laptop screen started back at him, mocking his lack of progress. The laptop screen what is wrong with me? Stared back him, not started back at him. What's wrong? The laptop screen stared back at him, mocking his lack of progress. So you are giving what, guys? You are giving a non-living thing a human touch. So that's why it becomes a personification. Correct? I have told you 1,000 times to double check your calculations. I have told you 1,000 times to double check your calculations. Again, told you 1,000 times. Don't you think you are over exaggerating? So it becomes a hyperbole. Sometimes what happens is when we repeat multiple times, we compare it to 1,000. But technically, practically speaking, we wouldn't have said the exact number of times. But it's just that we are telling the impact of it. Okay. Next one, 17th. The new startup's growth was as fast as lightning bolt. The new startup's growth was as fast as lightning bolt. It means, again, you're comparing two unlike things using as fast as or like something. So it becomes what, guys? Simile. Her voice was music to his ears during the stressful meeting. Her voice was music to his ears during stressful meeting. So I'm comparing what, guys? Her voice to something else and directly ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಲಿಕತ್ತೀನಿ. ಹೌದಾ? ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಮಾಡಲಿಕತ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಮೆಟಫರ್. Next one. The silence in the boardroom was deafening after the bad news. Silence. Deafening, like extremely sound ಆಗಿ ನಂಬಾಗೋದು. So completely opposite. So you can say oxymoron. Because I'm talking about two contradicting things. What a great day for a picnic. He said, looking at the hurricane outside. Now, hurricane is like huge wind and tornado wherein you can't even step out, you have to really do it. But if he's saying it is completely the opposite situation, it means irony. Got it? Question number 21. The big blue bus bumped boldly through the busy Bollywood. The big blue bus bumped boldly through the busy Bollywood. As you can see, B, 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 B. So it is repetition of the sound. It looks like a tongue twister. So if anything is a tongue twister, we call it as alliteration. Correct? Consonant sound in the alliteration. The cupcakes were calling my name from the bakery window. The cupcakes were calling my name. So you are associating or trying to tell a non-living thing. You are giving a human touch. You are imagining in human form. So adike personification. And finally the last one. A pilot has a severe fear of flying. A pilot is somebody who has to fly. And if he has the fear of flying, which is opposite of that, so adike irony. So I believe, guys, this session has really helped you. So I'm sure after this session, if you've watched this session from the beginning until now, you don't have faced, any single doubt. So what I want you to do is, I've given you some extra questions. You all can take a screenshot quickly, okay? And key answers ಇದೆ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ದಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ನೀವು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ಶಾಟ್ ತೆಗೀರಿ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋನ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡೆಡ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ವಾಚಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡೆಡ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್, ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ದೇರ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್, ದೋಸ್ ಹೂ ಆರ್ ವಾಚಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಲೈವ್. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ಶಾಟ್ ತೊಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ನಾವು ಐಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಯು ದ ಕೀ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಕೀ. You can take a screenshot. Correct? Actually, I wanted to discuss papers based. Idu ide alla. Nange naale I'll give you a detailed video wherein I want to explain one concept as well. It's just that completely tied up with classes. So again, as I'm telling you, those who really want to enroll, sir, full-time classes, especially, I want to really prepare for PGCET. Now that has extended the application, I highly recommend you to do it. And contact the numbers, like ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಫ್ಲೈನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಎನ್ಕ್ವೈರಿ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಡೂ ರೀಚ್ ಔಟ್. ಸೊ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಸೆಡ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್, ವಿಶಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಆಲ್ ದ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಹೆಡ್ ನೌ. RCB ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ಐತೆ. ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಚ್ ಅಪ್ ವಿತ್ ಮೈ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್. ಸಿ ಯು ಗೈಸ್. ಬಾಯ್.